All right, it says we're live now. We are good
All
to
right.
go.
Welcome, everyone, to the 034 Motorsport 0BS live chat, episode 234. Since it's the 234th episode, we are going to give a tune away to. I was wondering about this because I think there's a good chance everyone watching this already has our tune.
Right.
But I don't know. I guess we'll see. We can always give you something of equal value or something. I'm Javad Shadzi. This is Nate Stewart. We're here to answer all your hot and burning questions about all things 034. Anything automotive in general, feel free to ask. We're here to answer. We take a zero BS approach to responding. Really would rather put the truth out there and not deal with kind of the BS marketing stuff that a lot of companies talk in. We are deprioritizing update questions. So if you want to know when something's going to be done or something's going to be ready, we may not answer your question, or we may leave it towards the end of the hour if we run out of topical questions. But our goal here is to answer as many topical questions as we can. Is that anything?
I think that's pretty much it. Trolling and stuff we're not a huge fan of. If you want to just sit here and blast insults or whatever it is, that
then definitely we'll just block you.
There's no need of that. If you have questions or concerns or like legitimate things you want to ask and find out about, we're all for that.
Yeah, if there's a real issue that you'd like to take up with us, by all means, and ask it constructively, and we will answer it as constructively as possible. So we got some questions coming in.
Oh yeah.
All right. All right. What are the upper limits of power for the B8 3.0 T engines now that rods and pistons have been developed? And what risks could you face maxing out power like that? I mean, on the 3-liter engines with the supercharger, the amount of torque that's produced is pretty low.
Yeah.
One of these motors with our bottom end package with our forged rods and pistons, that's going to be good for 800 torque, at least. Yeah. So you're talking about with a appropriate supercharger application, probably 1,000 to 1,200 horsepower. In reality, these motors aren't limited by bottom end strength, again, due to the very friendly torque curve that's produced by the supercharger. The big limiting power factor is really the fueling system and the supercharger limitations, but mostly the fuel system. Would you agree?
Yeah. It's all limited right now by fuel system and airflow. So you can't really make a pile more torque like you can on the turbo cars just by turning up boost in the mid range.
These motors are getting up in years, and if you need a good, solid, reliable motor that has really good ring sealing and really good rod strength at these higher loads, then it makes sense to build your bottom end with our kit. But unlike the B9 3.0 Ts, those need it. We're getting to the point where those motors are maxed out, and we are seeing piston failures and not a lot of connecting rod failures at this point. Not on our tuning because we manage the torque so well, right along the limit of what the rods can do. But to push the power on the B9s, to the next level, a built motor is absolutely a must at this point.
Yep.
They're already making 700 crank plus on the stock motor, and that's more than anyone ever thought they'd do.
Yeah. The B8 stuff I'd say is more if you have a need to build the motor for other reasons, or you want to play with compression ratios and that kind of thing for various fuels and optimizations, that's where that comes in.
This is an interesting question. If you could meet and spend the day with anyone from automotive history, who would it be and why?
I've never thought about that. So
until now.
Jeez.
I think for me it would be someone from the early days of Quattro. Probably some of the people involved in the early rally racing, and some of the some of the people, someone who was involved in the IMSA GTO program, which to me is kind of the most ultimate Audi racing that they ever did.
Yes, I think that was Ferdinand Piëch for a lot of that.
Yeah. So yeah, but I haven't really thought of that a lot either.
I don't have
a
a
good
good answer
question
for that one.
But I think definitely if I had some time to do some research, it would be someone around that stuff.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking similar. Somewhere where there's like a paradigm shift in just technology, not necessarily the electrification, because that's kind of, I'd say, more like just tech evolving, but where you're truly like inventing something that's never been done before. Quattro's a good one, but even down to like internal combustion engine stuff when they were first figuring that out. Like whoever figured out like, that this mechanical bouncing reciprocating mess would end up working the way it does now.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it should work.
No.
Like, how can something explode?
Yeah, it's
so fast,
so controlled, and so repetitive, and so accurate.
How can you have so many explosions so fast?
And you just pull up to this dirty gas station on the side of the road.
How it work? Yeah,
pump into this fuel. And,
yeah, I mean, personally, I can say I've had the pleasure of spending time with some very talented people in the industry, people who could be considered legends or will be considered legends when they pass. So a lot of what I know and what we've been able to accomplish here at 034 has been through those relationships and mentorships and acquaintanceships with some pretty amazing people who I learned a lot from early on. That's something I've learned in my life is on a slight tangent, but for any of the young guys out there, you can go to school and you can study something, but if you can spend time with someone who's really good at the thing that you want to learn how to do, that's the fastest way to learn.
And isn't gatekeeping. There are a lot of gatekeepers, but if you can find someone that is passionate and very knowledgeable and has seen and done, these things in the real world, yeah, you can't beat that.
There's a lot of gatekeepers out there, but the gatekeeping problem gets solved through a relationship. And so if you can have a human relationship with a subject expert, then you can begin to access that information they have as a function of your genuine friendship and relationship, where the friendship makes the process of informing someone rewarding and meaningful. So yeah, if you can mentor with somebody and get the honor of doing that, you can learn a lot very quickly. And like, you just cut through all the BS and you learn exactly what you're supposed to do the right way, and you don't have to make a lot of those mistakes. Is it safe to run an ECU tune without TCU tune for the 23 to 25 SQ5s because it's patched for 23 to 25?
Yeah, as long as you're running the ECU patch, then yes,
Yeah.
You're all good to go. That's effectively the same as running our stage 1 TCU tune. So yeah, no, we've had zero issues on those files.
What engine oil is best for the Mk7.5 Golf R with OPF?
Goodness.
I mean, I would say factory spec
Yeah.
until you need otherwise. And if you're making a lot more power than that, then you could go one weight heavier. But yeah, for all the normal power, I would definitely do OEM oil, especially these days. The oil is very spec for the engines. I heard the 3.0 T-tunes have bad throttle response. Will that be fixed?
Oh, like stock?
Well, no, the tunes. I don't know exactly what this is referring to, but one complaint we hear sometimes is that we linearize the throttle pedal mapping, which means if you put your foot to 30% throttle opens to 30%.
Yeah, it's not.
If you go to 60%, it goes to 60%.
Yeah.
It's relatively
it's
linear.
relatively.
It's not perfectly linear.
It's more torque based than throttle plate based, but yes, that's effectively what you're going to get is a measured, fairly progressive application of power depending on pedal position.
Now, there are other tuners on the market that boost the throttle pedal response, which means when you just touch the pedal, the throttle kind of overreacts and opens way more than the pedal would suggest. This creates a sensation that the car is faster and more responsive because your brain is expecting, 30%, and the tune gives you 50% or 60%. And so it seems like it's faster, but really all it's doing is speeding up, inflating the throttle inputs. The car won't actually produce any more power, and the car isn't actually any faster. So we have a much more linear throttle pedal mapping, as Nate said, based on torque, because that's what is accurate for drivability. The throttle pedal is a precise instrument of car control. And so if you can have a logical and predictable throttle pedal map, then you can control the power of the engine, which is ultimately one of the keys to going fast through corners, is applying the right amount of power at the right time. And so these boosted throttle maps basically result in kind of a 0 or 100% throttle profile. You're either not accelerating at all, or you're kind of going balls out, wide open throttle, because there's really no in between. When you get rid of the middle portion of the throttle map and it's just kind of 0 straight to 100, then you've gotten rid of all that control in the middle. So we give you all that control back. And the factory even does this. A lot of times the sport mode functions is just this throttle mapping difference. And I know when I'm on track, I'll do like an individual mode with comfort throttle mapping because I don't want that faster.
On the factory tunes,
yeah.
We will generally ensure that the mapping is going to be the same between comfort and dynamic modes, and it's going to be you're going to get the same amount of total power application depending on pedal position between the two. So it's a very predictable setup, and it's on a lot of these applications we're in some instances doubling the amount of power that the motor's producing, and if you've got the same amount of pedal travel, you've halved your resolution of that pedal already. And then if you've got like a sport mode that then tabletops your pedal at 50 to 60%, which a lot of the factory stuff can do, you've now got 1/4 of the pedal is getting you, 1/4 of the pedal travel is getting you what was full throttle when you were stock. So it can get really snappy and gross to control in a predictable way real quick.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's like, it's like, I'm trying to think of an analogy, but there's no MSG in our throttle mapping. What you taste is what you're getting. It's not too much salt. It's not a bunch of sugar. It's the real meat and potatoes, perfectly seasoned, so that you can taste the real flavors. But if you like that type of throttle mapping, that boosted throttle response, you can get aftermarket products like the Sprint Booster, which is that's all it does is it intercepts the throttle pedal electrical signal and delays it or amps it up. APR came out with one of these.
Same thing, yeah.
The pedal commander that's it's just putting MSG on your throttle pedal. And nothing wrong with, medically speaking, nutritionally speaking, MSG is healthy or whatever.
I was going to say MSG might be a bad example because that's actually pretty tasty.
Well, but there's also it's also healthy to have a totally exaggerated throttle pedal, exactly. But it's not what's best.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And so if driving precisely and going fast and having control of your car is important to you, then
and there's really not a compromise there other than your foot can move a little further to get you the same amount of acceleration. Like you have more control over it than you did before.
Yeah, it's not it's not like it costs you anything to move your foot another 3/8 of an inch. What was that Justin Timberlake movie, Out of Time, where like everyone has a certain amount of time on their wrist? Yeah, it's not like every time you push the throttle pedal a little further, your life shortens or anything. you can just push it. At some point,
I always struggle with what people think.
At some point, there's going to be like a little throttle controller on your eyelid, and you just blink to accelerate. But it's really not. It's part of driving. We don't have to shift anymore. So you just need to like push the throttle pedal down. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. B9.5 S5. What should I do before going stage 2 ECU and TCU? You should probably have a job. Make a good start to make a little bit of money to afford that. But otherwise, other than buying the tune and any supporting hardware, which we list on the product page, and just making sure your car is in good general health. Make sure you've done all the factory maintenance. Make sure you're up on your fluids, that your spark plugs and coils are in good condition. But other than that, nothing. And I think most of our customers who flash, I would probably say 8 out of 10, just pulling numbers out of the air. But based on my anecdotal experiences, do absolutely nothing. So, here's a juicy one. Let me read this. So someone says, for the B9 3.0 T platform, does anyone actually have solid proof of 034 leaning out and blowing up these engines? Yeah, so there was a post about this weekend. That's what this is referencing. So this whole 034 being lean was really kind of began and propagated by Mario Maleri. God rest his soul. He's since passed. But Mario, not to badmouth someone after they're gone, but this is just the truth. Mario was a competitor of ours, and we believe very much that his competitive tactic was to, disparage us so that he could bring some customers to him. And saying that we were leaned out is one way that he was doing that. He once falsely posted that he had 30 blown engines at his shop from our tuning. That's blatantly false. He was never able to provide any proof of that. And certainly, if he had 30 blown engines, we would have hundreds here. Yeah. We have very few, other than, there are customers that blow their engines on all tuning. There are customers blowing engines on factory tuning. The rate is very low, and it's well within the margin of error for having blown engines on any given platform. But if you can't outcompete us, then you can disparage us. And we actually were about to bring a cease and desist to him to stop posting false information about us, but we didn't end up needing to. But it looks like someone has picked up on this, who is also our competitor, and trying to bring B9 tunes to market, and has now picked up on this. And they have a customer with a license plate that says Lean 34. Mm-hmm. I mean, these are all marketing tactics, right? And they're going around posting blatantly false misinformation. So we're going to have to redirect our cease and desist to them, most likely.
And again, we're not hiding anything.
No.
We literally give you guys all of the tools to log and confirm and validate.
Nothing is being hidden. You can log your own car, like Nate says. We will evaluate it for you. You can present the data to other tuners, which our customers do.
More than any other off-the-shelf or custom or other tune, we let you see your data and see what's going on in your setup.
But this new person who has picked up Mario's torch is not a tuner. They're not a calibrator. They don't know shit about it. They have a big misunderstanding of how FSI engine fueling works. And it's just a competitive tactic. If they can get a few detractors of ours based on the false information they spread, they get to pick up a few customers they didn't I think it's just, it just goes with the territory when you're kind of a market leader. If you can't outcompete, then you just disparage and tear down and criticize and spread lies and misinformation to try to get that business. So, anyways, that's what that's about. And as always, ask for proof, ask for evidence, ask for substantiation of information and evidence, but you're not going to find it with these guys.
No, and it's unfortunately it's one of these areas it's fraught with technical. I don't want to say nuances because it's not like a scientific thing, but you have to understand a lot of what's going on and what the data you're looking at means, and when certain things are more important than others.
They are nuances. I mean, when you get into advanced technical topics, it's not super straightforward, and rules of thumb and simple basic information, taking rules of thumb from tuning EFI systems in the 90s does not inform you on how an modern FSI ECU should run. And so to imply that when you go to wide open throttle that a modern FSI, Bosch or Siemens ECU is going to immediately go to 0.75 AFRs. It's just not how these ECUs work, and they shouldn't. And anyone's tune who does that is not a good or optimized tune. And here, the reality is nobody out there has any more fueling than we do. So unless they're creating some magic, and you have some people now trying to stick fuel injectors in the inlet pipe, that fuel is not going into the combustion chambers across all 6 cylinders in an evenly distributed way. So, everyone's dealing with the same amount of fuel. APR, IE, anyone else. We're all running the same injectors, the same ECU. And so we can work within that, but we can't just magically add more fuel. You can either cut power or add more fuel. So, we offer a standard output file and a high output file in our stage 3 plus for the B9 to allow people to have more margin of safety or less. It's up to them. But there is no proof or evidence that we blow up lots of motors. This is a shitty marketing tactic from our competitors who are honestly, they're going after our scraps. If that's who you want to give your money to and put your trust of your engine in someone like that's hands,
yeah, I will say
God be with you.
It's also just the market share that the number of cars running, say our tune versus XYZ tune, and just the sheer volume that you're going to, no matter what, have some issues here and there based on that volume. Whereas you get a tuner that's tuned 6 cars, like, nothing's fallen apart yet. Well, yeah, neither did the other thousands of cars that we've had zero issues with, and people are ripping around. Trouble free. So
yeah, to Nate's point, when you've tuned 10 or 20 cars and you're walking around saying that you have a safe tune, get the fuck out of here. Seriously, we have many thousands of cars running our tunes. So yeah, no, our tune has the most development, has the most safety features and functionality. And we're here. We stand behind our products. We're here every week talking to you guys about it. We're not anonymous posting shit talking on some Facebook group with no idea what we're doing. Those people who are doing that, they're just, honestly, they're scammers. It's a scam.
We've talked about this before too. It's the problem with the social media aspect these days. Is everybody has a soapbox and can shout from it. And usually the loudest shouters get the most attention. Yeah. Whether they're right, wrong, or otherwise, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. And if you want to Google something, Google Mario Maleri scam. You'll see lots of hits. The guy was definitely a scam. All right. But everyone has to make up their own mind. We're here doing our thing.
Yeah, we're always available for questions. Like I said, we provide, I keep saying this, but more information about your calibration before and after the fact than anyone else
Mhm.
in our market.
Yeah, we've been here for 20 years. We've never scammed anyone. We've worked hard to put out the best quality products in the industry, stand behind our products, take care of our customers.
We have never had nobody came forward on our removal of our NDAs over blown motors that everybody was claiming we had. All of the hush money we paid to keep people quiet.
Yeah, all the NDAs, which we released, and I don't think even one person came forward.
Any blown motor NDA thing.
That was Mario's other thing. That we had hundreds of people on NDAs, but 99 released everyone.
Not a single one
live on the air.
Yeah, never.
We do not use NDAs to hide blown engines. We never have, and we never will. B9 S5. I'm due for control arms, stock height, but unsure if I want to lower it later. Density line control arm kit or something else. Curious about your recommendations. Yeah, so our density line control arms are wonderful for a stock height or a lowered car. The only thing you want to do is you want to tighten all the bolts for the control arms with the car sitting at neutral ride height. If you change the ride height of the car, i.e. lowering springs or whatever, then you need to loosen all the control arm hardware and retighten it.
Just the inners though, remember, not all of it. The spherical, the ball
anything with a bushing.
You can tighten that up in the air or wherever. But.
And anything with bushing, the rubber bushing.
Yeah, rotating rubber bushings.
If you don't, then that will accelerate the wear on those bushings. And you'll have a preload on the bushings. Hey, I have a question. How does the false knock work? I was driving normally and my check engine light came on, but I was wondering what causes a false knock.
I don't know what false knock.
Yeah, where's that term
from? There's things that can be like extraneous engine noise or like mechanical, other mechanical components, I guess, that could trigger the knock system to detecting knock. But generally, they're pretty well filtered on these motors. So I'd like to know a little more detail about what you think is false knock or what you're attributing to that.
Yeah, if you want to follow.
If you're getting a check engine light or something, that's not a normal thing, obviously. That's why it's on. And you want to chase it.
Everyday language, obviously, false knock would be anything that's detected by the knock sensor that's not.
Of course, yeah, that's why I was saying mechanical noises or some other external source.
And the signal filtering of the knock sensing control system should not listen to anything that's not knock. It should be calibrated in a way that only actual detonation events acoustically make it to the ECU.
Yeah, they have listening windows for each cylinder, and then filtering is applied to that. So usually you're in a good spot, but if you've got some weird mechanical noise, that could attribute to it. But no matter what, it should be investigated, and you shouldn't be getting a check engine light. Yeah.
Would you guys ever dive into full frame turbo kits for the B9? We will eventually. For now, we don't see a need for it. With larger, turbo housings being cast and designed, we can stick with the factory form factor, which makes installation very easy, and the fitment and packaging very easy. Once you get into a full frame turbo, nothing is going to fit right. Everything is going to be too big and out of place. So we will. We'll have no trouble getting well into the 1,000 horsepower plus range with the
factory form
turbos that install. And there's no headers on these motors, so you have like two little pipes that come up to the turbo. So there's really no advantage or way to package a bigger turbo, say like in the Dazas or in the 180 era, things like that. A lot of the kind of classic tuner applications where you can kind of take the factory turbo manifold off, take out the air box, fit a turbo in there, build a header to it, and then figure out the intake afterwards. That's never going to work on the B9 unless you just want to throw all functionality.
Yeah, to be clear, we're not talking about maintaining the factory housings either. So it's a factory format turbo in that it'll fit and bolt up to the factory provisions, but completely their own housing and castings.
Yeah, a new housing that fits in the factory form.
Yeah.
With much higher power potential than the factory housings.
Yeah.
That's really the win here for B9. And a lot of these, even like 4.0T, all these kind of new hot V motors,
Yeah.
there's just no room for big full frame turbos.
You give up so much.
Yeah, good luck on RS5. You know, there's no way you're going to be able to fit two turbos in there. I've got the new radiator coming for B9. How do you find the stock water pumps handle that plus the aux cooler, considering mine had neither? Is an upgraded water pump a thing coming for much like the B8 platform? Yeah, the factory water pump has no trouble. Even though the capacity of the system is increased, it's not that much bigger. It's totally within the factory fuel pump's ability to pump through this system. Remember, water doesn't compress, certainly not easily. So even though there's more water in the system, the pump is still pushing. The forces on the pump are still relatively even to the factory, despite the, maybe you're 20-30% greater system capacity, but the amount of coolant that needs to flow through the pump doesn't change.
Yeah, and your head pressure is probably not changing much at all to flow through those.
No,
if anything, it's probably opening up a little bit through the radiator, and then you've got a little more side load or from the side radiator. So it's I don't think it's going to be that much different.
The water pump upgrade for B8 was related more to reliability and functionality. Those pumps just fail, and there was a reason they failed, and they would leak. So the B9s don't necessarily have that same exact problem. So yeah, we've found there's no issue, no need to change or upgrade the factory water pump for B9.
Well, other than the factory failure points that leak it into the wastegate.
The wastegate thing, it's a different type of failure. But you need to address that regardless of the cooling system.
That has nothing to do with it.
Even if you just stock. In terms of the new injectors coming for the B9 platform, what kind of feeling can we now expect from them compared to the AQ injectors? Is it cheeky to ask for an ETA? Well, thank you for saying it's cheeky, because yes, it's very cheeky. How dare you?
Update question.
But we'll just say the new big injectors are coming along great.
Yep.
They're in the kind of final stages of testing. We will release them when we feel they're 100% ready for prime time. We would not ask you to test or have any doubt that they're exactly what they need and that the tuning is perfectly calibrated for these injectors. So stay tuned. It's coming, but it will be a game changer in B9 tuning. This will be the first really big factory FSI injector, factory-based FSI injector that's substantially bigger than any of the factory options. So next time you see someone talking about Lean 34, know that we're actually bringing more fuel to the platform than anyone else has. And certainly the fucktards saying this stuff are not doing anything about it. They're just sitting on the sidelines watching us. Following up on the B8 supercharged and fueling limitations, along with the power adder, what can you tell us about the Procharger you're tuning for VAST and while using MPI on Syvecs? Man, people don't miss anything.
Nope. That thing's moving a lot of air. I can say that.
It's pro, all right.
Yeah, she's cooking. So that's actually going really well. It was a very big transition in tuning strategy to tune that thing, because they operate those chargers operate like a weird turbocharger, the way the power onset comes on. So you've got like nothing, and then it ramps up very similar to the turbocharger, like a big laggy turbocharger. But yeah, that thing's moving a ton of air up top. So it's coming along great. Be interesting to see how far the stock motor will go, because it's making more boost up top than anything else we've got running right now.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Since we're on the topic, we talk a lot about shitty people in this industry, but Marshall Rolls is definitely one of the good ones.
Yes.
And so if you ever have a chance to work with him, highly recommended. I've known him for over 10, 15 years. It's always been great to work with, and his Procharger setup is legit. He's doing a great job with it.
Yeah, and it was a really nice reprieve from some of the other, like beta or early adopter work we've done in the past, where Marshall's very competent for one. That makes it really easy. He knows what he's doing, but very methodical and will spend the time to do it right. So, it's been a pleasure to work with him.
Yeah. So thank you, Marshall. How are the different drive modes handled when tuning? Say, how does Eco differ from Sport once I tune the ECU MK8?
Yep. We talked about this a little bit before. There's still going to be some differences. Overall power delivery is going to be basically identical between the different modes. Eco notwithstanding, on some platforms, I would have to validate exactly which one you've got. At times, we'll leave Eco as a true Eco mode where you're not going to be making a ton more power, if any, just because it's for economy only. But drive and dynamic modes, you're going to be making the exact same power output between the two, but dynamic, you'll typically get a raunchier, sound output. So whether it's crackles or, exhaust flap changes and that kind of thing. And your throttle transition rates will be a little sharper. So the actual, not necessarily the power delivery per pedal, but how quick it will get you that power or that torque request applied, you could say. So yeah, that's about it from the tuning standpoint. They're 99.9% going to be the same.
Yeah. All right. We got a lot of questions.
We have
keep it moving. I recently bought your guys' Stage 2 Plus tune, and I have test pipes and cold air intake, dual pulley from Unitronics, and also a heat exchanger. Am I good to flash my car, or do I need any other mods? I'm assuming this is B8, but you're going to need to go to our product page and look at any of the required mods that are listed there. If you do not have any of the required mods, you need to get those on. Sounds like you're
I don't know
there.
I don't know what fuel you're running. If you're running E40 or anything like that, you'll need a high pressure pump. Again, assuming this is B8.
But the best thing is just go to the product page and it'll tell you there.
Yep.
No guessing.
Yep. And as far as the pulley, he's dual pulley, so it's very likely at Stage 2 Plus 4.
Could you please put the oil debate to bed on B9 platform 0W20 versus 5W40?
Everybody wants one answer for something.
I mean, just do 5W40 if you're worried about it.
If you're worried about it, do 540.
It's a heavier duty oil. It's going to be thicker and hotter temps. So yeah, just do that unless you want to prioritize efficiency, minimize any kind of parasitic losses from oil in the motor. You're more concerned about efficiency, then go with the lighter. But if you're more concerned about performance, which I'm sure you are, then the heavier oil's the way to go. With the caveat that either will work just fine. Do you see a holdup on items in your catalog? It seems like more items are on back order. Is this due to the tariffs? Our inventory position is actually quite good right now. There may be one or two more products on back order now than there were a month ago. However, we are being impacted by tariffs. Every major tuner in the industry is. If they say they're not, they're lying. I could see some really small companies that are able to kind of do stuff locally in the US, or they do low enough volume that they can try to do it in-house. We haven't been that size since 2008. It's very, very tough to not be impacted right now. So pretty much every US company that imports from overseas has put its shipments on hold. All of our shipments incoming have been on hold for weeks now. We are just sort of waiting to see where things land. It's been very chaotic and haphazard, with news from the White House changing almost day to day. So in business, you need a stable, reliable, predictable environment to operate in. That's one of the keys to business, which is why the US has always been the best place in the world to do business, because when you close your doors on Monday night, you know what to expect on Tuesday, and you know what to expect the month month from now, and 6 months from now, and 2 years from now, you have a stable business environment to operate in, which means you can then tweak and tune your business model to be profitable. But when things are changing literally day to day, it's very difficult to do business. And so as such, most companies have just put everything on hold and are operating with their current inventories, waiting to see what happens. So I think what we will all see, if this doesn't resolve soon, would be major back orders and out of stocks for many companies, which means then they cannot sell things. That will have a huge impact on their revenue. You know, it goes on from there. So hoping for the best. We just want to bring great products to market for you guys at reasonable prices, and be able to put our quality standards and stamp of approval on every product, no matter where it's made. But we are seeing tariffs from every country on earth, and there are even specific auto parts tariffs that are targeted.
It's so hard to know
two companies
right now what a part is going to cost.
We're doing our best over here, but it's rough. It's been a rough few months.
There's an interesting thread I was reading this weekend on port activity. So if you look at the number of ships in the ports right now, so you do like the last 12 hours, how many ships arrived, and then what's coming in the next 30 days. It's like the next 30 days is there's basically no activity in these ports that's scheduled to arrive.
Yeah. So imagine the economic impact. It's just going to be.
I don't know where it's going. It's getting. It's going to be something.
But yeah, you guys will see some more out of stocks from us. We're doing our best. The problem is, in some cases, if we bring in a product and if we let it go through customs right now, it could more than double or triple the cost.
Yeah.
And we can't absorb that, right? Like before all this, we're operating on, razor thin margins to meet our business objectives and goals, and to be able to provide more opportunity for employees, to invest in new products, to be able to expand into new products and markets. And so we can't just absorb a double or tripling of cost of a product. We can maybe absorb 5 or 10%, and then, then you're now losing money literally. So, yeah.
And it's not like there's a spigot we could turn on somewhere to pump the product out somewhere else. These are things that have never been made here locally, or just haven't been made here. And
no, you can't just pivot, overnight to a new factory.
Go find a foundry or a vulcanization.
Yeah, that stuff doesn't exist. Okay, I could talk about that all day. Let's see. Number one's a blade update question. I'm pulling the 034 adjustable upper control arms this weekend to rebuild once I get the kit in. Did 034 release the spherical inner bushings for them yet for a C7A6? We have not. You can reach out to tech support at 034 Motorsport if you'd like. We have not released those. They are in the works, but like I just said, a lot of that stuff's on hold right now. But no, go ahead and rebuild with the rubber inner bushings, and that's you can always do the sphericals later, but they're not like imminent. So front main seal's leaking. I want to replace with 034, but since I'm in there, should I just go stage 2+ dual pulley? Need new injectors as recommended. Is safe if I keep under light load until I get new injectors? I mean, yeah.
Sounds like you're in communication with our support team already, so that's probably where that injector recommendation comes from. So, I mean, if you just want to be able to drive around, then I'm sure you can keep your injectors as is. But yeah, don't get on it. Don't go hooning the thing just because you put a different pulley on.
Yeah,
it is a good time to put another pulley on because it's going to be free. Zero added labor once you're in there. So, but yeah, just take it easy, be smart with it.
Someone says, Jzillatrackdays FSI tune on our Mk5 Jetta GLI has been solid. No issues in almost 2 years of hard tracking. Yeah. Awesome to hear. Are the numbers for tunes at crank or wheel?
Yes.
Both.
Yeah.
We list both.
We try and list as much as we can for a given platform. So you'll see on our website, we'll generally have tables that list both. We have dyno charts for every single octane and stage. So yes, they're both up there. You should be able to compare roughly between. The biggest thing with anything, we say this over and over with dyno numbers, is you have to take the baseline and compare it to that. Don't compare it to whatever internet numbers you're finding. So take dyno numbers as a metric only applicable to that product.
How often should the upper control arms on the B9 S5 be checked, if even needed? It could be part of a general safety inspection you do every year, but you should need to check them unless you hear some clunking or you feel something. You'll typically hear or feel those when you're going over like a driveway bump, pulling into a driveway while you're turning. That will really load up the upper control arms, and if there's any looseness or play in them, you'll hear a clunk or feel something like that. Yeah. But in general,
if you live in an area that has like lane dividers, the little reflectors, those will highlight that because it's a real sharp thunk that you'll get. But yeah, I mean, tire rotation's probably about the same schedule, I would guess.
I'd love to run one of your tunes. I want to go E85.
All right.
I don't know what to tell you. You're on the right track.
Well, I think that's part of the what we discussed at the beginning, which we probably need to do.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, we should do that.
We have 10 minutes left.
Okay, so this is our live chat number 234 tuning giveaway.
234.
So this is whoever responds with the correct answer first.
It's going to be tricky because we have 3 platforms you're going to be answering that you're fighting with. So.
But our Crackerjack marketing team will be monitoring all 3 platforms, right, guys?
Timestamps in.
What is the latest tune that 0 through 4 has released? Not update or anything.
Most recent tune.
The full tune that we released. Okay. So
keeping it easy for you.
Type in your answers. Start doing your Googling or whatever it was that you were going to do. No.
You need to be specific. Whoever is answering it cannot just be a super broad like.
Yeah, so the
X engine size.
The answer has to be platform, engine, and stage.
Yep.
And if you can answer that correctly, and yes, stage matters. Yeah.
Sounds like somebody already got it. So.
Stage 3 B9 SQ5 daily driving should be on standard output or high output. This is totally up to you. If you would like a more reliable daily driver that needs less maintenance and has a much bigger margin of safety, then run standard output.
Yeah, unless you really have a reason that you want to be on the high output file, just run standard output. You are getting, damn near all of it, and the extra from the high output is not going to be there on any daily driving activities.
Yeah, if on your way to work every morning you would like to race C8 Corvettes and
if you're doing
turbo
quarter-mile rips on your or timing it and really chasing those numbers, then that's where the high output comes.
Then you want the high output. The actual difference in daily driving is going to be, relatively minimal. You're only going to notice it on sustained wide open throttle. You're banging through second, third, fourth gear. That's when you would really notice the difference. Otherwise, the standard output file is balls fast, and it's going to rip your face off just fine on a day-to-day basis. Okay, and substantially faster than like stage 2 plus or anything you're going to get.
Where did they answer that question? I was just curious.
The winner?
Yeah.
Instagram.
Instagram?
Yeah, they take a screenshot of it.
Sweet.
Yeah. It was kind of a hybrid between one other guy.
Would you guys happen to know why a tuned Gen 1 R8 V8 can't make as much power as the B8.5 RS5 V8 when they're the same stroke bore and fuel system? That's not true. Both motors are equally capable with the same amount of tuning. I think you could argue that even the Gen 1,
I don't know.
The R8 V8 is even has a little bit better intake manifold.
That's what I was just curious on the runner tuning. That's the only thing that would be different between them. Other than that, they're basically carbon copies.
I think if you look into the aftermarket, there are like supercharger kits available for the RS5 that are not available for the
All right.
the R8. But if you want to try to, we're running out of time. But I don't know what you've heard or seen, but there's no reason for that. Do custom pro tuners just really disable all safety parameters, or do they actually write it to be better, or do they just leave it there and just play with ignition timing, fueling, and boost?
It is all over the map. There's no such thing as a custom tuner that describes all custom tuners. I would say the vast majority of them are operating off of a kind of set of like aftermarket industry files that kind of tend to float around, and that's their starting point, just because they're working on maybe a VTEC Honda one day and an Audi the next day, and a who knows what the day after that. So they're not going to have years of research and development on these very niche ECUs and products and calibrations. Some will have more than others, but generally, if it's a like a one-man shop, it's going to be a very, very narrow scope and a very limited, time-wise amount of.
And there are good examples of this. I'd say the bigger companies who present themselves like 034 are going to do a better job with not only maintaining safety features but improving on them.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest issue is you have a factory safety feature or function that works with factory tuning. But when you changed all the tuning parameters, what's safe now has to also be recalibrated and programmed. That's something that we do. And so it's not like we're necessarily having to add a lot of safety systems. We're just making sure that the safety systems are calibrated with the ECU tune and that those are working in harmony. It's kind of like if you're setting up a bungee jumping event, and it's with a bunch of 100-pound people, and then you have certain safety built into the bungee cords that makes sure that a 100-pound person is going to be safe. But you get some 200-pound people doing bungee jumping, you're going to have to recalibrate those safety systems. You don't necessarily need new safety systems. You just need safety systems that account for that extra weight. And what we do is recalibrate the factory safety systems for the higher levels of boost and power. That's not something smaller or less experienced tuners are capable. If you want to see a really good example of this, we actually did a very detailed deep dive. It's called, what is it called? Our Jackal fact check
Like that.
video. And it's an hour and a half, 90 minutes of Nate and I actually going into their calibration and showing you how they've disabled factory safety systems or how they've incompetently failed to program, reprogram.
Yeah, and being in this industry and seeing a lot of the aftermarket marketplace where you can go and shop and buy like tuned files from various distributors, that is not uncommon to find something like that. It is incredible. It's far more common to find that kind of a file where you do have a mountain of safeties and switches turned off and limits just pushed to the moon. Some of it's on purpose to kind of point a tuner that's coming along like, hey, these are all pushed way out of whack. You're going to want to look at these when you get to calibrating it. Most don't. They just leave it because it's so far out of the way. It doesn't affect their tune. But it also removes a ton of, limiters and safeties and reasons that they were there. But yeah, like going in, just nuking a bunch of fault codes, raising limits beyond anything they could mathematically even hit, all kind of big red flags that they didn't put the time in or just kind of were shortcutting as much as they could.
As always, we'll state that nobody does it as good as we do at 034 when it comes to the performance and safety features. So that's what you get when you use us, and when you put your trust in 034, we spend the time to do that stuff. And in most cases, we're making safer tunes than it was on the factory tune.
Right.
We answered 3. 2 we've answered so many times.
Yeah.
Product request: please design an oil dipstick for CREC Q7. No one has it. Mark, write that down.
My laptop is about to die, so you're gonna be on your own soon.
Someone's asking about a relationship with integrated engineering. It's not good. Not good at all.
For so many silly things.
I would love to tell you about it, but right now,
Yeah.
I won't speak anymore about it. But it's
Absurd. I can say that.
It's another day in the industry. Is it possible to switch to your tune if I have an APR throttle body and dual pulley? I have a 2012 A6 C7.
22. Yeah. That should be supported. I'm trying to think if that would be the old. Yeah, no, C7 should be fine. Yeah. No, it's the older. It's the C6.
Yeah. We do offer a 25% switching discount.
Yep.
And we can absolutely.
You'll need to change the harness that goes to the throttle body, but other than that, that's
which we sell on us.
Yeah, we have that. We can set you up with that. Yep.
What do you guys have for transmission upgrades for the 7-speed dual clutch and the B8.5 S5?
Software, because that's pretty much all you need. We have some inserts that go around it to tighten up the mounts, but literally, I mean, I can do first through second gear burnouts on a launch with ours. Like, they've got tons of clutch, they've got tons of headroom if they're programmed appropriately.
This is an interesting one. He says, everyone is saying, I don't know who everyone is. Stage 1. Everyone is saying stage 1 034 on my Audi S5 has too much torque. What's the estimate 0 to 60 with stage 1 034 Audi S5? Stock is 4.4.
What about all our stage 3 stuff that makes even more?
I don't know how you could have too much torque. I'd love to know what that means. But it doesn't have too much torque. It has a optimized amount of torque that takes full advantage of the capacity built into the factory turbo, as well as the extra fueling capacity in the factory fuel system. I don't know about 0 to 60. I don't know exactly. I can kind of estimate that. I believe we've seen low threes,
low to high threes. I think probably. It really depends on setup, on what fuel you're running, where conditions, and all that.
I think you should
pretty
easily be able to run 3.5 on stage 1. The higher stages go even faster. On stage 3, we've seen as low as 2 seconds.
We're sub 3 on a lot of the stage 3 stuff.
Yeah, so I don't know who everyone is. I would question the validity of that statements. I don't know if there's two guys online, and I don't know if they were trolling you or what. But we're happy to talk to you about it. If you want to email us at tech support or tuning or sales at 034motorsport.com, we'd be happy to answer any of your questions. We're here to help. But I don't know what too much torque means.
Nope. It's scary.
Like my first thought is it's like saying too much sex. Is like your dick about to fall off? Like, what's going on? Because that sounds great to me.
Yeah. I mean, there are things like unsafe torque levels, but we're not there on stage 1.
Nothing's breaking. So I don't know what's too much about it. Maybe you're getting additional wrinkles from all the smiling. I'm not sure. But I think you're going to be okay.
You'll be all right.
All right. I think we're out of time. I think we got through most of everything.
Yeah, we got a pretty good handle on them this week. Yeah. There's a lot of questions there, so thank you guys. And do you want to announce the winner?
Oh yeah, let's announce
it's at the top there. I don't think we have a real name yet. But...
the winner is 69. Oh no, that's at Powan_P18 from Instagram.
Yep.
Congratulations at Powam P18 on Instagram. Do we want to do a DM?
Yeah, we'll reach out to you.
We're going to drop into your inbox, so look out for that.
Stay tuned.
And hopefully we can get you into a tune.
Yeah.
We would love to hear what you think, and great job on your Google foo.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. That's a very nice job. All right. Cheers, everybody. I don't think we'll see you next week.
Okay.
We're going to be
that's right. Lots of traveling.
Yeah, but soon after that. Cheers.